Yeah, I promised I will not jump over the screen at the end of this presentation. All right, everyone. So my name is Sanjiv Kalevar. I'm a partner at OpenView. We're a venture capital firm focused on software. We've been around for 20 years, and we actually coined the term product-led growth back in 2016. Now, a lot has changed since then. And today, well, we've had COVID, we've had rising interest rates, and macroeconomic shocks. I'm here today to talk about what's new and changed in PLG. Do PLG companies actually hold up in a recession? And most importantly, what can you as founders do to survive and thrive kind of in a changing macroeconomic environment? Let's jump in. So PLG has been a hot topic over the last few years. It's no surprise that in our survey and benchmark of private software companies, about 3 in 5 were already using PLG. This has already happened, and we've been tracking the performance of publicly traded PLG companies, which you can see behind me. As the economy has shifted, you can see the performance of these publicly traded software companies has really changed. The green bar shows the revenue growth of PLG, public software companies, and the blue bar shows the revenue growth of just their sales-led peers. We're going to jump into a little bit more detail just now. So during 2019 and the early part of 2020, PLG companies outpaced their sales-led peers on average by about 11%. During the COVID boom, PLG skyrocketed and was growing twice as fast as their sales-led peers. And then as COVID as the COVID tailwind subsided, software and PLG growth has come back down to earth. You can see that they've come down from the highs of 2019, but they're still outperforming their sales-led peers as of Q1. Overall, PLG companies have been resilient despite a changing macroeconomic environment, but they have been more volatile. With that said, PLG is not one size fits all. We're seeing some interesting trends around what the best PLG companies are doing to push SaaS forward. Specifically, what we've noticed is that during this time frame, these companies have been onto something that's been hiding in plain sight. Today, there are over 5 billion people connected to the internet. These could be your users, your buyers, and even people in communities all around the world talking about your product that you may or may not even know about. Not to mention APIs, AI algorithms, and automations that are interacting with your product or company potentially 24/7. Together, these form a new ecosystem of connected parties that you can use to your advantage or not. We call this the age of connected work. While PLG is now 8 years old, there's still a ton of opportunity for you as founders to adapt your business to this new environment. In this new age of connected work, the most innovative companies build their business around the end user, wherever and wherever they are. These are the 11 principles of PLG that we've outlined. And in short, these are principles that you can use to define how you build your product, service your customers, and monetize your platform. The important thing to note is this is very much intentional effort on the backs of founders and companies to impart these principles, not just happening by accident. It's important to note that we didn't just invent these in an ivory tower. Here are examples of leading PLG companies like Datadog and Expensify in our portfolio, as well as other companies that I'm sure you're familiar with, like Twilio, Shopify, and Atlassian. What you'll notice is that of these 11 principles, they're basically all using them to some degree. In fact, all of the PLG leaders are using 9 or more of these principles. And what's interesting is that the prize is worth it. If you compare the PLG leaders, those using 9 or more principles, to the traditional software companies using 0 to 3 of the principles, or the emerging PLG companies using 4 to 8 of them, the PLG leaders are significantly outperforming. They're larger by revenue, they're growing faster, and they're twice as valuable from multiples basis. So PLG is not one size fits all. So today, we're going to give you a sample of what I'll call the PLG starter pack. These are 5 principles that you can pay attention to right now and get started using for your business. And if you'd like to chat further about any of them, I'm going to be around afterwards. Let's start with building to be discovered. Everyone is familiar with the old kind of sales playbook, the B2B funnel. This is around, centered around the buyer, which is very different from the PLG journey, which is all centered around the end user, where the end user kind of begins, starts, and grows in your product, largely on their own. This is some data from our survey benchmarks that show that the PLG leaders are actually acquire the majority of their customers from either organic SEO or from the product themselves. This is very much different from sales-led companies, which acquire, as you guessed it, more than half of their business from sales. Now, I guess I have a question. How many of you have used the company Grammarly? Okay, and how many of you that have used Grammarly, keep your hand up if you have actually, if you search for grammar correction software? Okay, there you go. Case in point. So no one is actually searching for grammar correction software, and Grammarly knew this really well and implemented the principle of building to be discovered. What they did was using, solving for the end user intent, which is end users really just want to look smart in front of their friends and colleagues, and they're searching for things like, do I spell no one with 2 words or 1 word? And as you can see, that is simply, that search result alone has 26 million hits. And so by tapping into that end user intent, they're able to uncover that demand and get discovered organically. Another way to get it discovered is through viral loops. We think of those as either external viral loops, internal viral loops, as in Figma, or built-in viral loops, as in Calendly. Again, these are very much intentional, and so even for Calendly, which is all around built around meetings, they're currently undergoing an initiative to add internal viral loops to their already external viral loop products. So what does that mean in practice? You currently, if you use Calendly, you set up a meeting between yourself, typically, and then another external party. But if it's a shared meeting or a group meeting, they're trying to find ways to make that instantly shareable between parties on both sides. And so they're making significant efforts to add these internal viral loops in addition to the external ones that already exist. Now, as I think about these viral loops, there's another way to look at them, which is viral loops outside your product, hence in the community. It's important to note what community is not. Community is not just another Slack group or another user forum. And it's all around focused on what are the things or how can you add value to your end users. There's many different flavors of community, but again, the key is that people trust people much more than they trust brands. So a couple examples of that are finding ways where your existing community, your existing users spend time in their respective communities outside of your product. How can you tap into that to leverage building to be discovered, one of the earlier principles? In addition, content is all around adding content that's valuable for the end user, not a thinly veiled advertisement. And then actually one of my recent portfolio companies recently actually acquired a community that is supposed to add in discovery to the software product. So that's something that actually Pendo, Salesforce, and others have already done as well, and we're seeing that happen as well. So the next principle is about instant customer experience. And I would encourage you to just think about the last time you kind of downloaded and used Uber. Uber, as an example, you probably downloaded the app, added your credit card, and then were out and driving within minutes. Compare and contrast that to the sales-led buying experience, maybe the last time you bought an ERP software, and you had to go through a few weeks of demos, months of requisitions, and support building, and then even probably months of onboarding after that. one of the best ways to track if you've got instant customer experience is, do you have an activation metric? So in the consumer world, the Facebook is very popular for adding 7 friends in 10 days. For Figma, it's can you add 1 collaborator within 24 hours to a design? One of my portfolio companies, the activation metric is finding 10 bookings at one location. The important thing is that they're always going to be different, but at each one, do you have an activation metric? You can see the standout PLG companies, 90% of them have an activation metric. And according to our benchmarks, the standard activation rates are about 20 to 40%. So if you're under 20%, there's probably room for improvement, and above 40%, please give us a call. There's the age-old adage of giving before you can get. And it's really easy to say, in general human interaction, but it's hard to actually enact in real life and in PLG. But that's what this principle is around. Here's the website traffic for 1,000 website visitors. And what the data says is PLG is really hard. For 1,000 website visitors, you get a handful of conversions for your self-serve product. The 2 most common methods are either free trial or freemium. But thankfully, we're seeing a new alternative, the reverse trial, which blends both of them. One of the benefits, so how a reverse trial works, by the way, is basically you give the full access to the full premium product available to your end users. And then as a certain time limit, for example, Airtable, after 14 days, they take away, they either bump you down to a lower plan or to the entire free plan. And the benefit of this is that you actually take advantage of human psychology, where humans feel the pain of loss much more than the benefit of gain. Our final principle today is monetize based on usage. Now, usage or consumption-based pricing is very much the natural extension of PLG, in my opinion. In the old days, software companies would sell an annual contract or a license contract with an annual maintenance fee. Today, in SaaS, you're paying either quarterly or monthly. Well, why not extend that all the way to its natural logical conclusion, which is pay by emails or number of APIs used or storage or whatever the applicable value metric is. The benefit of this is allows the customer to start at a very low cost and minimize friction, which directly links the value paid to the value that the customer received. This, in turn, allows more and more users to access the product and expands the TAM of available users for your company. Now, how does consumption-based pricing fare in a recession? More data here. In fact, it really follows a similar pattern to the PLG slides that we talked about earlier, where usage-based companies kind of fly higher, but then in a recession come down. But it's interesting to note, as of Q1 of this year, they're still ahead of their sales-led peers. It'll be interesting to see how that fares in the coming quarters. Another interesting thing is that consumption-based pricing is not just a pricing scheme. It really affects all of the different departments within a software company, everything from product to marketing, sales, and customer success, and even finance. And most importantly, it changes the dynamic of how you think about a software company. In the past, you might think of a software company linearly. You add more customers, you get more revenue. What's different about a consumption-based model is that it actually resembles much more of an early-stage portfolio, an early-stage venture capital portfolio, where you add a whole lot of smaller bets and then double down or get the majority of the distribution from a smaller number of customers. Examples of this are Square for Marqeta or Shopify for Stripe. Overall, if I'm going to leave you with 3 takeaways from today's presentation, first, it's that PLG companies are facing headwinds in this macroeconomic environment. Number 2, not all PLG companies are built alike. There's a subsegment of PLG companies that are using 9 or more of these 11 PLG principles. And those companies are actually thriving in this environment. They're growing faster and are almost twice as valuable as their peers. It's a new era for PLG. The age of connected work is a combination of 11 principles. I'd say, honestly, any one of them wouldn't be enough for me to be here and talking with you. But together, they really can form a competitive moat for your company. And so it's up to you. They can be either a competitive moat for your company or your competitors. You choose. And finally, again, these are the 11 principles. We view this very much as a community initiative. So if other people, if you're building your business and have thoughts or come up with a new principle, we'd love to hear from you. And we'd love to collaborate on this type of content and really deliver it back to the community for the good of the PLG and SaaS everywhere. Thank you very much for your time.